The thing that stuck with me about Insidious is that it's not the house that's haunted. It starts by letting us think that we know what kind of movie this is going to be. A family moves into a house, strange things happen, the child falls into a coma. Everything about that setup points us to the same conclusion that horror has trained for us to reach for years. That the house is the problem. So the family moves, yet the haunting still follows them. That is where Insidious becomes frightening to me. Because once we find out the house is no longer the source of the haunting, the movie forces us to look somewhere else. The danger is not in the house. It's not in the property that you could pack up all your belongings and just leave behind. The danger lies within the person. Once the haunting moves from the house to the person, there's a much bigger fear at work. What happens when your body is there, but you're no longer fully inside of it? Having to face ourselves is scary enough. Being alone with our thoughts, fears, memories, and the parts of ourselves that we try to avoid can already feel like its own kind of haunting. But the idea of not being ourselves at all is the part that can really get under the skin. Hi, I'm Brandy, otherwise known as the Terrorific Lady, and welcome back to Retro Horror School, where we discuss, dissect, and analyze horror from the 1970s through the 2010s, and talk about horror like it matters, because it does. And today we are talking about Insidious in the next lesson of the horror that raised us. If you've not watched the other videos in the series, check out the playlist. I'll leave a link in the description. And if you're new here, I have a Start Here playlist that lays out the Retro Horror School method and gives you a roadmap on where to go next. So the question I'm working with this video is this. What did Insidious teach us about the fear of not being ourselves? When people talk about Insidious, the conversation usually goes towards jump scares, it goes towards the further, it goes towards the lipstick face demon. And I understand those are some pieces of the movie that make it stick out in people's minds and makes it memorable. But what interests me the most is the way Insidious changes the haunted house formula without completely abandoning it and pushing it by the wayside. The real horror now is no longer outside the family. It's attached to the body, the mind, and the space where the self is supposed to live. The beginning of Insidious is built to make us suspicious of the house. Renee and Josh Lambert move into a new home with their children, and the house has that unsettled feeling that homes have before they really become homes. Boxes are everywhere, rooms are not fully arranged. The family is physically inside the space, but the space doesn't feel like it belongs 100% to them yet. And a lot of haunted house movies and stories often begin with that same feeling. A family enters a new place, and that new place has rules that they don't quite understand yet. The rooms feel too quiet, the hallways feel too long, there's the attic or the basement that you definitely should not be exploring alone. So when Dalton falls and later slips into a coma, we're pointing at the house as the obvious suspect. Then the activity around Renee starts building, which then confirms our suspicions. She starts hearing things, she starts seeing things, feels something in the home that definitely should not be there. So this movie is using a language that we already recognize. When Renee wants to leave, she's doing what horror audiences are yelling at the characters to do. Get out. Leave. Take your family and go. And they do it. That's the important part. This movie lets the family make the logical, practical choice, and it doesn't help them. The haunting continues in the second house, which means that the first house was never really the source of the danger. It was just the first place that the family noticed it. That shift changes the logic of the entire movie, because a haunted house can be escaped, at least in theory. You can leave the room, you can leave the entire house, and still escape what happened there. But if the haunting follows you, it's about whatever you're carrying. That is uncomfortable because the moment that the haunting attaches to the person, then the body itself starts to feel like a haunted space.
Hey, Dalton.
Dalton's coma is frightening because his body is still there. And he hasn't disappeared in the obvious way. His family can still see him, they can still talk to him, they can still touch him. Doctors can examine him. He can be moved from one room to another or from one house to another. His body is present in every way that people are trained to understand presence. But he's not there in the way that matters, and that's what Insidious keeps pressing on. The movie separates the body from the person inside it. Elise explains that Dalton can astral project, and while he sleeps, his unconscious can travel to places far outside his body. This time, he's traveled too far and became lost in a realm called the Further.
Is a dark realm filled with the tortured souls of the dead.
Dalton's body is in the bed, but he is not fully inside it. And once he is not inside it, other things have started to notice the spirits around Dalton want what his body represents, which is a way and a step back into the world. Lipstick Face Demon, is scary, but that's not his number one objective and goal. He wants to use Dalton and occupy the space that he has left behind. And that is why the body starts to function like a haunted house. In a traditional haunted house story, the house has doors, rooms, hidden spaces, histories, and things inside that absolutely do not belong there. Insidious takes that structure and moves it on to the body. The body becomes the place something can occupy. The body becomes the place where something can hide. The body becomes the thing that can look absolutely normal from the outside while something else is living inside it. This is why It's Not the House That's Haunted works as more than a twist. It's the movie telling us that we've been looking in the wrong direction this whole time. We were watching the walls, the rooms, the dark corners, when the real haunted space was Dalton. In haunted house movies, the house carries the ghosts. In Insidious, we do.
Man. Yeah.
What makes Dalton's situation even more unsettling is that he doesn't do anything major to invite these things in. He hasn't summoned a demon. He hasn't read cursed Latin from a cursed book. He sleeps. That's it. He sleeps. And in Insidious, sleep becomes dangerous because it's the moment when he is not aware. That is such a simple fear, but I think it works because we don't need it explained to us. Much like in Nightmare on Elm Street, whenever we're asleep, we're completely vulnerable, we're unaware, anything can happen. We're not watching the room or guarding ourselves. We trust that our bodies will still be ours when we wake up. That is what sleep is supposed to do. It's supposed to return us to ourselves. Insidious snips that trust and makes it feel fragile. In this movie, sleep is absent. Dalton's consciousness leaves his body, and Josh's used to do the same thing as a child. Their bodies remain behind, but awareness can drift away from them, and once awareness is gone, their bodies become accessible. That word is what bothers me. Accessible. Not dead, not empty in a simple way, not gone forever, unguarded enough for something to notice. That is where Insidious connects to a fear that feels very much like childhood to me. The fear of what happens when you're unaware. What the heck was in your room while you were sleeping? Why did that dream feel all too real? Why do you wake up sometimes and feel strange for a second, like you're having to settle back into yourself? The movie takes those little fears and gives them a supernatural shape. The body becomes a house with the lights off, and something outside notices that no one is answering. The Further is unsettling because it's like a waiting room where people are stuck. People are standing in rooms like they've been there too long. Moments are frozen. Nothing there feels really alive, but nothing there feels really gone either. That is what makes the space work. The Further shows us what's been close to Dalton this entire time. It shows us the things circling the space that he has left behind. This is why Dalton matters. He is alive but absent. His body is still connected to the world, but he is not inside it. To the things in the Further that makes him an opportunity. The ghosts in Insidious are frightening because they're trying to return. Fear is part of what these ghosts are, but fear and making people scared is not the final goal. The final goal is possession, a body, a life, a place in the world again. That makes possession feel less like a random attack and more like theft. Something doesn't want to kill you, it wants to take your place. That's where Insidious starts asking what makes a person themselves. Is it the body, the face, the voice, memories, the people who recognize you? The movie keeps pulling those pieces apart until the body is no longer proof that the person is still there.
Renee, I'm right here.
The ending of Insidious works because it understands that replacement can be scarier than death. Josh goes into the further to bring Dalton back, because on the surface, Dalton is lost. Josh goes to find him. But Josh has his own history of astral projection, and that history has not gone away. The old woman that has been haunting him and trying to possess him has been after him since he was a child, even if he hasn't known it. So when Josh returns, the movie gives us the thing that we think we want. Dalton comes back, Josh comes back, the family should be safe. Except Josh is not Josh. His body made it back, but he did not, and that is the horror of the final moment. It's the realization that the body can return without the self. Josh's face is still there, his voice is still there, his family can look at him and be like, oh, okay, well, Josh, he made it back. But something else is standing where he should be. That is different from death. Death is awful and horrible, but at least death is an ending. Replacement is total erasure. It means the world could keep turning and going with your body still in it. But without you, your loved ones might see your face, your loved ones might hear your voice, and think you are there, and the worst part is that they might not know right away. The nightmare is that a person can become a haunted house, and something can move in.
What?
Insidious came out at a time when supernatural horror was making its way back into the mainstream. But I think its specific fear works because it's not really about destroying the body. A lot of 2000s horror, especially early 2000s horror, made the body feel breakable in a very physical way. Torture horror, gritty remakes, and survival horror focused a lot on what could be done to the body from the outside. Insidious is different. It's interested in finding out what happens when the body is still intact, but the person is not fully there. That's a real shift in where the horror puts the threat. That feels like a very different kind of fear. Not just for millennials around the time that this movie came out, but for Gen Z as well. So millennials and even Gen Z, depending on when you watch these movies, grew up with horror that made ordinary life feel unstable. Insidious adds another lesson by making the self feel unstable. And I don't mean it in a complicated, overly academic way. I mean the simple version. The version that shows up at night whenever you are alone with your thoughts and overthinking. The version that understands how strange dreams can feel even after you wake up. The version that knows what it's like to look into the mirror and feel disconnected for a second. The version that knows that having to face yourself is scary. Insidious takes that feeling and one-ups it with a question. Yeah, the problem may be that you have to face yourself, but what if the other problem was that you might not get to remain yourself? That is why the movie still lands for me. It's about the private space inside a person no longer feeling private. The body and the mind should belong to us, and sleep should return us to ourselves. Insidious took all that and made it feel uncertain. And once that uncertainty is there, the haunted house idea becomes a lot more personal. So what did Insidious teach us? It taught us that the body could become a haunted place. Insidious made us afraid of not being ourselves. Because the scariest thing in the movie is the possibility that something could enter the space where you are supposed to be. Your body, face, and voice could still be there. And you could be gone. In most haunted house movies, the house carries the ghosts. In Insidious, we do. Thank you so much for watching this video in the Horror That Raised Us series. The next movie will be visiting The Descent and the issues of trust, isolation, and survival, and what it does to relationships. If you want more horror analysis that goes beyond just plot recap, make sure that you are subscribed. If you like this video, make sure to like and share it with other fellow horror fans. All that stuff really helps out the channel. And consider joining as a YouTube member. Click the join button below to see what you get. As always, thank you so much for being here. Class is dismissed for now. But I'll see you next time. Bye.
It's not the house that's haunted. It's your son.